नाथ मरण मोहन जू की जाय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिशिमार भक्तिवेदांत नारायण गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील गुरुदेव की जाय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिशिमार भक्तिवेदांत वामन गोस्वामी महाराज की जाय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार श्रील भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जाय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोस्वामी महाराज की जाय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जाय। नित्य प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्री गोक्षर बाबाजी महाराज की जाय। नित्य प्रविष्ट श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जाय। नित्य प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जाय। श्री रूपानुगौर्य गुरु वर्ग की जाय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ चार गोस्वामी प्रभु की जाय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जाय। नाम जय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जाय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौरमंडल ब्रजमंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जाय। सर्व अभिष्ट विरक्त गिरिराज महाराज की जाय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जाय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जाय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जाय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जाय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जाय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जाय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जाय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय। सारथ-दर्शिनी वृत्ति की जय। श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री गौड़ीय भाष्य की जय। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणेति नामिने। नमः ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनेति नामिने। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवो विनेदुस्तं सर्वभूत हृदयां मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वाकता कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना हृदन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतं। नष्टप्रयेष्वद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकं। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षाय क्षिप्ताष्टकामान् दितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं। भज श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Gargaraj ji, Pradyumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji, Madhavi Didi, Nirohit Radhakrishnan ji, Dandavat pranams to all of you. Sorry for starting so late today. Yeah, anyhow, I'm going to just jump right into it. Let's see, let's read the translations from... Which point should we read translations from? Okay, let's read from here. One second. Okay. The Supreme Lord said, once the sages, headed by Sanak, who were born from the mind of Brahma, inquired from him about the difficult subject matter of the goal of yoga. The sages, headed by Sanak, said, my dear Lord, the minds of human beings are naturally attracted towards the objects of sense gratification, and the sense objects enter the mind in the form of material desires. Considering this, how can a person who desires liberation, who wants to desist from the activities of sense gratification, sever the mutual tie between the sense objects and the mind? Please explain this to us. Okay. So basically the question is, for those who want to desist from the activities of sense gratification, how can someone sever the mutual tie between the sense objects and the mind? Please explain this to us. The Supreme Lord said, my dear Uddhav, Brahma, who is from my body and who is the creator of the living entities within this material world, being the best among the demigods, seriously considered how to answer the question of his sons, headed by Sanaka. The intelligence of Brahma, however, was affected by his activities of creation, and so he could not discover the essential answer to their question. Brahma first wanted to find the answer to the question that was puzzling him, so he meditated on me. At that time, I appeared before him in my form as Hamsa, swan. Seeing my form as Hamsa, the sages headed by Sanak, placing Brahma in the lead, approached me and worshipped my lotus feet. They then asked me, who are you? My dear Uddhav, eager to understand the actual purpose of yoga, and so they inquired from me. Now listen attentively as I repeat my instructions to the sages. My dear Brahmanas, if you believe that I am also a jiva soul, and that there is no ultimate difference between us, because all souls are ultimately one without individuality, your question does not seem relevant. Because the spirit soul has no designations such as caste, on what basis should I answer your question? If, when you asked me, who are you, you were referring to the material body, which is made of the 5 gross material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, you should have asked, who are you 5? If you consider that basically all material bodies are the same, being made of the same elements, then your question cannot be taken seriously. Thus, it appears that in asking my identity, you are simply speaking words without any real meaning. Whatever is perceived by the mind and senses is nothing but a manifestation of me. This should be understood by an unbiased examination of the truth. My dear sons, the mind has a propensity to enter into material sense objects, and material sense objects enter into the mind. However, Both the mind and the material sense objects are designations that cover the pure spirit soul, who is my eternal part and parcel. One who has thus attained me, understanding that he is not different from me, realizes that the material mind is absorbed within the sense objects because of constant sense gratification, and that the material objects are present within the material mind. Having understood my transcendental nature, he gives up both the material mind and its objects. The three functions of intelligence, wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep, are caused by the three modes of material nature. It has been ascertained that the spirit soul is a seer and is completely aloof from these three states. Due to being bound by material intelligence, a conditioned living entity is dragged towards material sense enjoyment. I am the fourth stage of consciousness beyond wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep, and so you should become established in me and thus give up the bondage to material nature. In this way, you can automatically become detached from the material sense objects and the mind. The living entity has been placed in bondage by the false ego, which awards of what he had actually hoped for. Therefore, an intelligent person should give up his constant anxiety to enjoy material life and remain situated in the Supreme Lord, who exists beyond the functions of material consciousness. As instructed by me, one should fix the mind on me without deviation. If one continues to have various objectives in life instead of seeing how everything can be dovetailed in my devotional service, then, although believing oneself to be awake, one is actually dreaming due to lack of absorption on the transcendental platform, just as one may dream that one has awakened while sleeping. Any condition of life that is thought to be separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no real existence, like something experienced in a dream. Just as a dreaming person sees himself engaged in many different activities, the conditioned soul imagines that he performs fruitive activities. While awake, the conditioned souls try to enjoy the fleeting experiences of this material world. While dreaming, he enjoys other illusory experiences within the mind. And in deep sleep, all such experiences are forgotten. By understanding these three states of wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep, the conditioned soul can realize that he is simply the witness and therefore transcendental. My dear sons, after carefully deliberating upon how these three mental states are born from the three modes of material nature, and thus created by my illusory energy, you should cut to pieces the false ego, which is the source of all doubts, with the sharpened sword of knowledge acquired by logical reflection upon the instructions of the sages and Vedic literatures. You should then worship me, who am situated within the heart. One should see that the objects of this world are an illusion appearing within the mind, because material objects are temporarily manifested. They can be compared to the streaking red line created by whirling a blazing stick on fire. The spirit soul by nature exists in the single state of pure consciousness. However, in this world, the soul appears in many different forms and stages of existence. The modes of nature divide the soul's consciousness to wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. All such varieties of perception, however, are actually Maya and exist only like a dream. With the understanding of the temporary and illusory nature of the material world, and having pulled one's vision away from illusion, you should remain free from desires for material enjoyment. By experiencing the happy, you should give up material speaking and activities. Even if you must be involved in material activities like eating, you should remember that it is not ultimate reality and that you have renounced it. By constantly living in this way, right up to the point of death, you will not again fall into illusion. This is a really important point. I'm just going to reread this. With the understanding of the temporary and illusory nature of the material world and having pulled one's vision away from illusion, you should remain free from desires for material enjoyment. By experiencing the happiness of the soul, you should give up material speaking and activities. But we don't just give up material speaking and activities. When we experience the happiness of the soul, that happens automatically. So even if you must be involved in material activities like eating, you should remember that it is not ultimate reality and that you have renounced it. By constantly living in this way, right up to the point of death, you will not again fall into illusion. Okay, so we read up to this point. Just 1 second. The other day I started this very rigorous Ayurvedic program, and I still haven't finished taking my medicine. I have to take it at like particular times. Haribol, Ganga Mataji, Dandavat Pranams. And also Dandavat Pranams, Indira Mataji, who will be watching a little bit later. I wonder where Raseshwari Mataji is. Okay, sorry. Thanks for waiting. Deham cha nashwaram, Deham cha nashwaram avastitamuttitang va Sedho na pashyati yato dyagamat swarupam Daivarapeta daiva vasharupetam Vaso yata parikritam madira madandha. Just as a drunkard does not know whether his clothes have fallen off or if he is still wearing them, a self-realized soul does not notice whether his temporary body is seated on an asan, standing, or walking about. Commentary. Sārārtha-darśinī vritti by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. In these two verses, the condition of a liberated soul is described. When one has realized Brahman, he does not notice whether he is sitting, standing, or walking. The example is given of an intoxicated person. He is so absorbed in himself by the influence of wine that he hardly notices even if his clothes fall off or somebody is dressing him. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda. A self-realized person has no interest in the enjoyable objects of this material world. Because he is situated in his eternal constitutional position, he sees that his temporary body and restless mind are products of matter, and thus he always remains engaged in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord. As a drunkard does not care about the state of his clothing, a self-realized soul is indifferent to and forgetful of material enjoyment. Dehopi daivavasya gha khalu karma yavat. Dehopi daivavasya khalu karma yavat swarambhakam prati samikshata eva sasu tam sa prapanchamadhiruda samadhi yoga swapnam punarna bhajate pratibhuddhavastu. This material body, which certainly moves by the arrangement of providence, will certainly continue to exist, along with the life, air, and senses, as long as one's karma is in effect. One who has attained absorption in the Lord through samadhi, and who is fixed in the absolute reality, will never again surrender to the material body and its manifestations, knowing it to be just like a body seen in a dream. Sārārtha-darśinī. As long as one is destined to enjoy the results of his karma, one continues to remain within the material body, along with the life air. The question may arise, if a self-realized soul gives proper attention to the maintenance of his body, won't he again become attached to it? Lord Krishna herein states that one who is highly elevated in Krishna consciousness, having understood Lord Krishna to be the actual reality, never again surrenders to the illusory identification with the material body, which is just like the body seen in a dream. Sorry. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The Supreme Lord alone is the eternal object of all kinds of relationships. As eternal servants of the Lord, his pure devotees, even while situated with their material bodies, do not forget him. They do not become attached to the temporary activities of the insignificant states of awakening, dreaming, and deep sleep, because their only object of worship is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maya tar uktamvo vipra goyam yogayo janita magatam yagyam yushma dharma vivikshaya. My dear Brahmins, I have thus explained the confidential understanding of Sankhya and Ashtanga Yoga. You should understand that I am Lord Vishnu, having come here to instruct you about your actual religious duties. Did they not know? This is when he revealed who he was. Like, did they not know before? I wonder. Sārārtha-darśinī. To strengthen their faith in his teachings, the Lord said, "My dear Brahmins, Sankhya, or the science of the self, and Ashtanga Yoga, the process of linking with the Supreme, have thus been revealed to you. In the future, it will be remembered that Lord Madhav, in the form of Hamsa, instructed Brahma and his sons in the form of a swan." Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The Supreme Lord said, "I am the Supreme Absolute Truth, and I have come here to reveal the confidential understandings that were incomprehensible to the misguided preachers of Sankhya and Vedanta. I am the object of everyone's worship, the Supreme Instructor, and that which is to be known. I am the object of everyone's worship, I am the Supreme Instructor, and that which is to be known. Aham yogyasya sankhyaśya satyasyartasya tejasa parayanam tuja shreshta shriya kirter dhamasya cha." O best of Brahmanas, please know that I am the ultimate shelter of Sankhya, the yoga system, truthfulness, influence, opulence, fame, and self-control. I am the shelter of all these things, of Sankhya, the yoga system, truthfulness, influence, opulence, fame, and self-control. Sārārtha-darśinī. The sons of Brahma were astonished by the presentation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They thought, "What wonderful instructions we have just heard!" The Supreme Lord thus said to them, "O best of the Brahmanas, I am the supreme shelter of Sankhya Yoga, truthfulness, equanimity, prowess, and influence." Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The Lord said, "I am the ultimate goal of the various systems of Abhideya followed by the different sects." 1 second. Mam bhajanti guna sarve nirgunam nirapekshakam suhridam priyamatmanam samya sangadayo guna. The best of all transcendental qualities, being transcendentally situated, detached from matter, the well-wisher of everyone, the most dear supersoul of all living beings, equally disposed everywhere. The most dear supersoul of all living beings, equally disposed everywhere, and eternally liberated, are found in me, their worshipable Lord. Sārārtha-darśinī. Because Lord Krishna has been describing his own nature, the sons of Brahma might doubt that he has become proud. And they think that they might think that he became proud, which is a material quality. Understanding this, the Lord clarifies his position in the present verse. The Lord said, "My body is not material, made of the 5 gross elements like that of the conditioned souls. My body is completely spiritual, eternal, full of eternal, full of knowledge, and full of bliss. Indeed, the transcendental, the Lord is called Nirapekshakam because he is never attached to material enjoyment like the conditioned souls. Because he is the best well-wishing friend of his devotees, he is called Suhridam. The word Priyam indicates that the Lord is a supreme lovable person and thus has affectionate relationships with his devotees. The word Samya indicates that the Lord remains neutral even while situated within the turmoil of the material world. It is therefore concluded that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Sridhar Swami has also confirmed that the qualities of the Lord are transcendental and eternal. In the first canto, it is also described that all the personal characteristics of the Lord are eternally present in his form, because there is no difference between the Lord and his body. This is also confirmed in the Vedas as follows. Na tasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, na tat samascha cha bhyadikas cha drishyate, parasya shaktir vividhaiva shruyate, sabhaviki jnana bala kriya cha. Srila Prabhupada quoted that verse so many times. That's from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.8. The Supreme Brahman has no material senses. He has nothing to do, and there is no one equal to or greater than him. Everything is performed naturally and systematically by his multifarious energies. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Do not come to a conclusion of impersonalism, because it is sometimes stated that I am devoid. Do not come to a conclusion of impersonalism, because it is sometimes stated that I am devoid of qualities. I possess all transcendental qualities. I am situated beyond the modes of material nature. I am the best well-wisher of my devotees. I am the shelter of all, and I am the ultimate goal of everyone. Transcendental qualities such as equanimity and freedom from bad association are eternally present in me. I cannot be understood by those who are in the bodily concept of life. Iti me chinna sandeha munaya sanakadaya sabha jayitva paraya bhaktya grinnata sangstavai. Haribol, Seshwari Mataji. I was wondering where you were. I mentioned that, but I'm glad that you're here now. Lord Krishna continued, My dear Uddhav, all the doubts of the sages headed by Sanak were thus destroyed by my words. They then worshipped me with loving devotion and glorified me by offering transcendental prayers. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord said, My dear Uddhav, having received my instructions, the sages headed by Sanak became freed from all doubts, and so they lovingly offered me prayers and worship. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Those who are detached from material enjoyment have no doubts whatsoever. The sages headed by Sanak attained that transcendental platform and offered prayers and worship to the Lord. Taraham pujita samyak sangstuta paramarshibi pratyayaya swakam dhama pashyata parameshtina. The sages headed by Sanak Rishi worshipped and glorified me to their full satisfaction. Then, as Brahma and his sons looked on, I departed from my own abode. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord said, After I was worshipped and glorified by the great sages, I returned to my own abode as Brahma looked on. Thus ends the translation of the 7th chapter of the Uddhava-gīta entitled The Hansa Avatar Answers the Questions of the Sons of Brahma, with the commentaries of Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura and chapter summary and purports by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura. So now we will begin chapter 8. Lord Krishna explains the yoga system to Sri Uddhava. But give me 1 minute to finish taking this medicine. Done. Okay. Sorry about that. This is my first day on this Ayurvedic program, and I wasn't used to getting it all set up, and so it took me. Anyways, whatever. So now, chapter 8. Lord Krishna explains the yoga system to Sri Uddhava. Chapter summary. In this chapter, Lord Krishna explains to Uddhava that devotional service is the topmost sadhana. Oh, and this chapter summary is by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda. Okay, so in this chapter, Lord Krishna explains to Uddhava that devotional service is the topmost sadhana. He also speaks about the process of meditation. Sri Uddhava wanted to know which is the best process for achieving the ultimate goal of life, and he also wanted to hear the super excellence of pure devotional service. The Supreme Lord replied to him by explaining how the religious duties prescribed in the Vedas had been lost at the time of the previous annihilation. At the beginning of the new creation, the Supreme Lord instructed these religious principles to Brahma. Brahma repeated it to Manu. Manu spoke it to the sages headed by Bhrigu, who in turn instructed these eternal religious duties to the demigods and demons. Because of the living entity's varieties of material desires, religious principles were elaborately explained in different ways. Thus, different philosophies came into being, including some atheistic doctrines. Because the living entity, bewildered by illusion, is incapable of ascertaining his eternal benefit, he mistakenly identifies ordinary vows of penance, austerity, etc. to be the ultimate spiritual practice. But the actual means of achieving happiness is to renounce material desires and become self-satisfied by surrendering everything at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. This drives away selfish desires for sense gratification and liberation. The Lord then describes the superior process of devotional service, which destroys countless sinful reactions and produces many ecstatic transformations, such as the standing of the bodily hairs on end. Pure devotion, having the power to purify the heart, enables one to achieve the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because he is very dear to the Lord and is always close to him, he is able in turn to purify the entire universe. Pious activities such as giving charity and observing religious vows do not have that potency. By virtue of his unflinching devotion to the Lord, the devotee can never be completely diverted by the objects of sense enjoyment, even if he is not able to gain control over his senses in the beginning. One desiring to attain the perfection of life is advised to give up all material processes of elevation, as well as the association of women. He should then merge his mind constantly in thought of Lord Krishna. Finally, the Lord instructed Sri Uddhava about the true object of meditation. So we're just going to read for 15 minutes and then we'll stop. Let me check the comments. Hare Krishna, Sudevi Didi, and Shah Sharmaji. Yes, Prajuna, those were amazing verses, weren't they? Shri Uddhava-uvacha Vadanti Krishna Shreyansi Bahuni Brahmavadhina Tesham Vikalpa Pradhanyam Utaho Ekamukhyata. Shri Uddhav said, "My dear Krishna, learned sages who explain the Vedic literature recommend a variety of processes for achieving the ultimate goal of life. Considering the variety of viewpoints, kindly explain to me whether all of them are equally important or if only one of them is supreme." Sārārtha-darśinī. In this chapter, the supremacy of devotional service which brings Sri Krishna under control and the method by which devotees who desire liberation meditate upon the Supreme Lord are described. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya requests further clarification regarding what he has already heard from the Lord. He also wishes for the Lord to clearly state what is the foremost sadhan. Uddhav said, The sages who know Brahman have propounded various paths for attaining the perfection of life. Please tell me which of those sadhans is best and which is most effective. Bhavato dahrita swamin bhakti yogo napekshita nirasya sarvata sangam yena tvaya vishenmanam. My dear Lord, you have clearly explained the process of unalloyed devotional service by which one can free himself from all material association, thus enabling him to fix his mind on you without deviation. Sārārtha-darśinī. In this chapter, it is firmly established that pure devotional service is the super excellent process for absorbing the mind in the absolute truth, Lord Krishna. Next, the question will be raised whether everyone can engage in devotional service, or is such practice limited to a select few. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The mind is very unsteady, and so by utilizing one's good intelligence, one must remain firmly fixed in devotional service so that one can ultimately attain the association of the Supreme Lord in its transcendental abode. This is the only intention of Lord Krishna speaking with Shri Uddhav. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kalena Nashta. Wow. It's like the beginning of a very famous verse. Kalena nashta pralaye vaniyam vedasam gita mayado brahmane prokta dharma yasyam marat atmaka. The Supreme Lord said, in the course of time, Vedic knowledge appeared to be lost at the time of annihilation. Then, when the universe was recreated, I again imparted Vedic knowledge because I am the religious principles personified. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord said, O Uddhav, I am the reservoir of all pleasure, and my devotees directly engage under the direction of my hladini, or pleasure-giving potency. Somehow or other, one must fix one's mind upon me, and that is not possible without devotional service. One who has not developed his attraction for me cannot restrain the senses from inferior engagements. Since other Vedic processes do not actually award me to the practitioner, they cannot offer the highest benefit in life. The transcendental sound of the Vedas is itself the highest evidence. But one whose senses and minds are entangled in sense gratification and mental speculation, and whose heart is therefore material dust, cannot directly receive the transcendental Vedic message. Thus, one cannot appreciate the exalted position of my devotional service. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The transcendental objective is distinct from the objects enjoyed by material senses, and is realized by the reception of transcendental sound vibration. In the conditional state of existence, a living entity is not capable of appreciating the transcendental sound vibration of the Vedas. four-headed Brahma was instructed by the Supreme Lord about the supreme religious principles. But for those who are attracted to sense gratification, Bhagavat Dharma is not easily understood. Tena prokta swaputraya manave purvajayasa tato brigvadayo grinan sapta brahma maharshaya. Lord Brahma instructed this Vedic knowledge to his eldest son Manu, who in turn instructed it to the 7 great sages headed by Bhrigu. Devya pritribhyastatra devadanava guhyaka manushya siddha gandharva savidyadhara charana kindeva kinnara naga raksha kim purushadaya bhavyastesham prakritayo rajasattva tamo bhuva yabhir bhutani bidhyante bhutanam patayastata yata prakriti sarvesham chitra vacha sravantihi. From the forefathers, headed by Bhrigu Muni and other sons of Brahma, appeared many children and descendants who assumed different forms as demigods, demons, human beings, guhyakas, siddhas, gandharvas, vidyadharas, charanas, kindevas, kinnaras, nagas, kimpurushas, and so on. All of the many universal species, along with their respective leaders, appeared with different natures and desires generated from the 3 modes of material nature. Therefore, because of the different natures and desires of the living entities within the universe, different statements regarding the religious principles have come into existence. Sārārtha-darśinī. Many people wonder why the Vedic literatures recommend so many different paths of advancement. The answer is given herein. Bhrigu, Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, and Kratu are the 7 great sages within the universe. The Kindevas are a race of human beings who are like the demigods, without fatigue. They are without fatigue, perspiration, and bodily odor. Interesting. One might wonder, Kim Deva, are they demigods? That's how they got their name. Kim, right? Kim Deva. Kim means what? It's a question. So Kim Deva, are they demigods? They are a species of human beings that reside on another planet within the universe. The Kinnaras are also called this because Kinchinnara. They are something like human beings. Wow, so interesting. The Kim Purushas also resemble human beings, and so it might be asked, Kim Purusha? Are these human beings? They are a species of monkeys that are something like human beings. Why are there various paths recommended in the Vedas? Because people have various desires due to being under the clutches of the 3 modes of material nature. Hence, there are different religious systems. Kinnaras, Kimpurushas, and Kimdevas. 3 types of human beings on different planets, though, not on this planet. And the Kimpurushas are a species of monkeys that are something like human beings. That's so interesting. Okay. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. According to the degree of aversion to the Supreme Lord, Vedic mantras have taken various shapes to fulfill the desires of sense enjoyers. Thus, the proliferation of Vedic processes indicates only the variety of material illusion and not a variety of ultimate purpose. The ultimate purpose of many paths recommended in the ultimate purpose of the many paths recommended in the Vedas is 1, to revive one's forgotten relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let me check the comments. Okay. Evam prakriti vaichra. Evam prakriti vaichitriad vidyante matayo nrinam paramparena keshanchit pashanda matayo pare. Thus, due to the great variety of desires among human beings, various philosophies have come into existence. These philosophies have been handed down through tradition, custom, and disciplic succession. There are other teachers who present atheistic philosophies. Sārārtha-darśinī. The word paramparena means through disciplic succession. Atheistic philosophies are meant for those who are very foolish and opposed to the purport of the Vedas. Neem trees, tamarind trees, and poisonous trees are situated on the banks of the river Ganges. My Gurudev gives this example so many times. Although they drink the pure and sweet water of the Ganges through their roots, they produce bitter, sour, or poisonous fruit. Similarly, those who are atheistic or demoniac utilize Vedic knowledge to produce bitter or poisonous fruit in the form of atheistic or materialistic philosophies. This is the purport of this verse. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. While viewing the variegatedness of the material world, materialistic people are distracted from the understanding of the eternal truth. Following in the footsteps of atheistic philosophers, many unfortunate people are misguided and thus miss the opportunity afforded by the human form of life. Acceptance of principles that are contrary to the Vedas is a prime example of misfortune. Manmaya mohita dhiya purusha purusharshava Shreyo vadantane kantam yatha karma yatha ruchi. O best among men, the intelligence of human beings is bewildered by my illusory energy, and thus, according to their inclinations, they propagate various means for attaining what they feel to be the ultimate good. Sārārtha-darśinī. The word anekanta means different kinds. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. According to one's individual way of doing things, yatha karma, and one's personal preference, yatha ruchi, one speaks to others about what is good for them. Everyone thinks, what is good for me is good for everyone. Sometimes people worship 5 demigods for the fulfillment of their desires, and sometimes they become intoxicated by the philosophy of impersonalism. Thus, in various ways, people view life from their limited perspectives and fail to understand that service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. Some of them pose as spiritual masters, and some of them assume the role of disciples. In this way, they fall into an ocean of anarthas because of their lack of attachment for spiritual life, being bereft of the Lord's devotional service. Being without sadhusanga, they are unable to properly worship the Supreme Lord, and this induces them to accept more and more anarthas. The person who has no faith in the Supreme Lord, who has no sadhusanga, and who does not worship the Lord, is certainly full of anarthas. Being mad after material enjoyment, they have no taste for spiritual life and are thus denied the opportunity of realizing the absolute truth. Okay, I'm going to end with this verse. Dharmam eke yashaschanye kamam satyam damam shamam anye vadanti svartam va aishvaryam tyaga bhojanam kechidyagyam tapodanam vratani niyamanyaman. Okay, we'll end with this, yes. Some say that happiness is obtained as a result of performing pious activities. Others say that fame, sense gratification, speaking the truth, control of the senses, peacefulness, fulfilling one's self-interest, political influence, wealth, detachment, performance of sacrifice and austerities, giving in charity, the observance of vows, or the performance of one's occupational duties are the causes of happiness. Sārārtha-darśinī. The karma mimamsakas say that one should not waste time worrying about a kingdom of God that no one has ever seen and from which no one has ever returned. Rather, one should expertly utilize the laws of karma, performing fruitive activities in such a way that one will always be well situated. The authors of the Kavya and Alankar literatures say that as long as the glories of a person is sung in this world, he will be able to enjoy life in the heavenly planets for thousands of years. Interesting. Sages like Vatsayan preach the fulfillment of lusty desires to be the sages like Vatsayan preach the fulfillment of lusty desires to be the objective of life. Others propagate the idea that truthfulness, self-control, and peacefulness are the essence of religion. The materialists say that the accumulation of wealth is one's true self-interest. According to the followers of Chavaka, eating voraciously is the true religion. The followers of the Vedas say that the performance of sacrifice and austerities and observance of vows are the activities of religion. Those who are advocates of the practice of yoga say that controlling the mind and senses is their religion. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Generally, people conclude that religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification are life's true objectives. The quest for fame is a kind of happiness enjoyed on the mental platform and is certainly illusory. There are many people who advocate that peace can be attained by remaining aloof from the intoxication of material enjoyment. Materialists become absorbed in the attainment of prosperity. Aesthetics become obsessed with rejecting material prosperity, while others are concerned with accumulating huge stocks of grains and other food items. But these are all anarthas. All right, so tomorrow we will continue on. These people obtain the temporary results of their work. Indeed, the meager and miserable situations they achieve simply award them unhappiness because they are based on ignorance. Even while enjoying the fruits of their labor, such persons are constantly filled with lamentation. O saintly Uddhava, my all-blissful form manifests in the heart of one who has freed himself from all desires for sense gratification and who is fully surrendered unto me. The happiness he enjoys in my association cannot be compared to the happiness one experiences by gratification of the senses. All right, so we will read all this tomorrow. All right, so like I'm doing throughout this this Keshav Vrat, I'm going to do Jaidvani, and then for those who want to stay, I'll sing Keshav Ashtakam by Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī. Jai Shishi Guru Garanga Gandharvika Giridhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Nārayan Gosvāmī Maharaj Śrīla Gurudev ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktisiddhānta Vaman Gosvāmī Maharaj ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Swami Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupāda ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Śrīla Gorkishora Babaji Maharaj ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai Shri Rupa Nugagoriya Guru Varga ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Patadasha Gunath Sharda Goswami Prabhu ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai Namachay Śrīla Haridas Ṭhākura ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund ki Jai Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi ki Jai Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki Jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai Samagat Grantaraj Shrimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Shri Uddhava-gīta ki Jai Shri Srila Viśvanātha Cakravartī Thakur Sārārtha-darśinī Vritti ki Jai Srila Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda Gauḍīya Bhāṣya ki Jai Shri Uddhava-gīta ki Jai Shri Hamsa Avatar ki Jai Shri Brahma Chatusan ki Jai Shri उद्धव जी की जय, श्री कृष्ण चंद्र की जय, श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवश कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदेवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। पंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Dandavat pranams everybody. Alright, so for those who want to stay, I'm going to sing now Keshav Ashtakam. Let me make this dark. Where is it? There. Okay, give me 1 second though, I just need to wash my hands and get the mridanga. Oh, Krishna. Okay. Shri Keshavashtakam by Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī. Nava Priya Kamanjari Rachita Karna Purashiyam Vinidrataramalati Kalita Shekare no Jalam Tarojvasita Yutika Kratita Valkuvai Kakshakam Braje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Vishangi Manikastani Pranata Shringi Pinge Kshane Mridanga Mukhi Dhumale Shavali Hamsi Vangshi Priye Iti Sasura Vikula Taralama Vayantam Muda Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Kana Pranayame Duran Maduranarma Goshti Kala Vilasa Nilayan Milad Vivida Vesha Vidotina Sakena Kila Saraya Patishuhasayantam Gira Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Shramam Bukani Kavali Daravili Dantaram Samura Giri Dhatubir Likita Charupantram Kuram Udan Charali Mandali Duti Vidam Bivakralakam Braje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Nipadda Navatarnaka Vali Vilokanot Kantaya Nathat Kura Putan Chalar Alogubir Bhuvam Bhindatim Kalena Dhavala Ghatam Lago Nirvartayantam Muda Pura Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Kalena Dhavala Ghatam Lago Nirvartayantam Puro Sai Bhaje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Padankatati-bhir-varam Virachayantam advashriyam Chalad tarala-naichiki Nichaya dhuli-dhumrasrajam Marullahari chanchale Kritadukula chudanchalam Vraje vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata keshavam Vilasa murali kala Tvani birullasan manasam Kshanara kila balavi Pulakayantamantar grihe Muhur vidatatang hridi Pramuditancha goshteshware Braje vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata keshavam Upetya pati sundari Tate birabhirabhyarchitam Smita kurankaram vitar Natarapanga bhangi shatai Stanastavaka sancharan Nayana chanchari kanchalam Braje vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata keshavam Idam nikhila ballavi Kula mahotsavollasanam Kramena kilaya puman Patati shushtupadyashtakam Tam ujvaladhiyam sada Nijapadaravinda-dvaye Haratim dadada chanchalam Sukhayatar vishaka saka Vraje vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata keshavam 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Jaya Keshav-dev Jaya Keshav-dev Jaya Keshav Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Jai Shri Keshav Dev Ki Jai, Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopigan Ki Jai, Shri Gurudev Ki Jai, Shri Param Gurudev Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Alright, everybody, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Oh wait, and I forgot, this is how I end each one of these. So in 3 days from now, 20th April, will be the appearance day of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. And in 6 days from now is Akshay Tritiya. So if you want to start anything, you can start thinking about how you're going to do it. And in 6 days from now, will be the most auspicious day in the year to start it. And then Janu Saptami is in 10 days. The appearance day of Janava Devi and Sita Devi is in 12 days. Mohini Ekadashi is in 2 weeks. Nrsimha Chaturdashi is in 17 days from now. All right, everybody. See you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe. And Haribol, Bhakti Yoga Society, Philippines, Dandavat Pranams. Haribol. All right, see you tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe.